What's up, everyone? Welcome to Mets Off Day Live. I'm your host, Chelsea Sherrod, and today I'm joined by two of my favorite people,
Aw,
SNY's MLB insider, Andy Martino, and the ever so lovely SNY contributor, Dani Wexelman. So good to see you both.
what
Guys,
a
this is my
buildup.
last Off Day Live of the season. I can't believe this.
Let's do it.
Well, I got to say, everyone else who comes on with you, Chelsea, over the course of the year, not your favorite people, just me and Danny. That's what I just heard. So you got some explaining to do.
I heard
We
that
just
too.
do us.
This lives forever on the internet too. So
You
thanks for
know,
mentioning that.
they'll
True.
they'll see it here and they will know moving forward.
They'll understand
But let's
because
get
Danny
right
and I are
into it, guys.
superior to all. They'll understand. It's obvious.
I feel honored.
I should.
The A team and the A is for Andy. All right, let's get right into it, guys. It's been a while since the Mets' last off day. There have been plenty of ups and downs in that stretch. So they dropped the series to the Nationals and the Marlins, but they took 2 of 3 from the Braves. They swept the Phillies and took 2 of 3 from the Tigers. Kodai Senga and Manaea have struggled, but we have seen the emergence of Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong at the big league level. Meanwhile, the offense has really taken off. So, Andy, I'll start with you. What do you make of the Mets' performance over the past 2 weeks? I know that was a mouthful.
Yeah, no, it needed it. It needed to be because a lot has happened and it's been a lot of ups and downs. I think the top line main point, Chelsea, though, is that the Mets are no longer in a day-to-day white knuckle thing about are they in playoff position between their consistently better play and the Reds really kind of collapsing. The Mets are fairly comfortably in playoff position right now. That's a really big deal. So that was really a risk at a certain point, and not that it's any sure thing at this point. It's only September 4th, but they can afford to try to get some players right and try to figure some things out without having to win every single day to keep that half game lead over the wild card or what have you. So to me, for all the twists and turns, the main point is that they're in a significantly better position for making the playoffs than they were not long ago.
Me? You want me to follow up?
Now they
Yeah.
face a crucial series against the Reds this weekend. Yeah, Danny, follow up on that if you'd like.
I mean, Andy said it best. I think too, like you're learning a lot. The good news, if you've had a stomach ache over the past couple of weeks, is that every team's fan base has had stomach aches. Nobody really knows what's going on. Every team has been up and down, and there are the Giants and the Reds on the heels of the Mets, but neither of them are better than the Mets are playing right now. So I don't foresee them earning that wild card, but everybody has had the feelings that Mets fans and the Mets have had. It's been a little inconsistent. You're trying to figure things out. You're trying to sort out your bullpen and figure out what your offense is going to be able to do. But I would say that it's a good thing that they're kind of shaking off all of the things that have been maybe dragging them down over the past couple of months and sorting out some of the bugs right now.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier too, guys, a big part of the Mets' streakiness has been the starting pitching. But let's start with the good. So Nolan McLean, he's 4-0 with a 1.37 ERA since joining the team. Jonah Tong allowed just 1 earned run over 5 innings in his debut. Andy, how has McLean and Tong's dominance translated so well from the minors to the majors?
Well, definitely McLean I will call dominance. Tong I think we need to see more of, but McLean's emergence has been nothing short of remarkable. You know, in his second or third start, Ron said on the air that we haven't seen anything like this since Matt Harvey, and there's no doubt at this point that McLean's coming out of the chute in the big leagues better than Matt Harvey did. Matt Harvey was no knock on him; it was a great debut, but it was power. And what's amazing about McLean, and Danny can speak to this even better than I, because you cover pitchers from youth all the way up to this level. So I see them when they get here. But to have a guy that maybe you could speak to how rare this is better than I could, but to have a guy this refined, not just with his mindset, he really does act like he's been there a long time, and not like in a cocky way, but like he doesn't seem nervous when he's doing these big media scrums, which you think like, well, you've never done this before. You're in New York, just a big camera pointed at your face. There's 15 reporters. He's like normal, calm, no pulse, interacting with teammates. He seems very same, even, no pulse. And the point that I was making about his pitching and his pitchability, Dani, was that like not just how refined his off-speed pitches are, but how he knows how to use them, do different things in different counts, freeze big league hitters on the Phillies, Bryce Harper's and Trey Turner's with changeups and cutters, and it's just they don't usually come up refined this way. So that's what struck me.
Okay, I well, first of all, I appreciate those kind words. There's a couple of things I think that come into play here, and I'll go back to college. So Nolan McLean went to Oklahoma State. That's coached by Josh Holliday. That is the brother of Matt Holliday, the uncle of Ethan and Jackson Holliday. So deep baseball bloodlines there. It's not like he had a ton of success at Oklahoma State, right? He was a college kid figuring it out, and he learned a lot. There's a lot of adversity. If you go and look back at his numbers, it wasn't so sparkling, and it wasn't quite what you've seen here at the big league level. And so I think getting the chance to learn and grow and make mistakes in college is a huge deal. I'm a huge advocate of that. And just because a guy doesn't get drafted top 10 rounds out of high school doesn't mean he's not going to become something in college. That's the whole point of the development. And so not only did he get that big league education, he also then was drafted into the Mets organization. And what Andy Green has done and what David Stearns has done with this farm system is incredible. This has been a point of emphasis. We've been talking about this since Steve Cohen bought this team back in the pandemic and how important it was. I remember when Billy Epler was here and they weren't trading big prospects because they wanted to make sure that they had homegrown guys. That's how you win World Series championships year in and year out. And so the development right now with the Mets and what they're doing in the organization is a direct correlation as to why I think Nolan McLean has had so much success and why you see Jonah Tong come up a little bit of a different route, right? Drafted out of high school. He didn't go to college. And so his development is different. He's younger, so he's learning different things than Nolan did, but still having success. And I'm wowed by him, but this is the next generation of kids coming up who will be drafted. They're media trained, right? I'm not going to name the kid, but in this next draft that's coming up, there's a young man who should be at least the number one, maybe the number two overall pick out of high school. And he's asking for feedback on the interviews that he and I have done. He's asking for the video clips so that he can watch himself back. And that's all part of the big league resume, right? And Nolan is walking the walk and talking the talk.
Oh, for sure. And we're seeing, I think, just like you were saying, Dani, I mean, the development and the preparation is showing itself now, but we're also seeing a level of maturity from the two of them, especially given what their ages are. But Dani, do you think that the Mets hitters feel any extra motivation to step up when the young pitchers are on the mound? The Mets have averaged over 10 runs per game when the two rookies start.
I think that when you have a new guy on the mound, the best thing you can do as an offense is put up some runs and put them up in a hurry. Give that guy a lead, give him something comfortable to pitch with, right? Again, Nolan is a little bit older than Jonah Tong. The Mets went bananas for Jonah Tong. But yeah, I do think they're motivated to do that, to make sure that guy feels comfortable and that when he takes the mound, he knows his offense is going to back him up. I love when the veteran guys, especially a guy like Francisco Lindor and you have Pete Alonso over at first base, those two guys in particular coming up, having the backs of their pitchers, their young pitchers. I think that all plays a role in this. And the Mets do a really good job at that. Those two guys, nobody is better at making their young players feel more welcomed, especially Francisco Lindor. I don't care what position you play. He is, and Andy can speak to this too. I think how he conducts himself in the clubhouse, how he takes care of his younger players, especially position players, is second to none. And they know that. And knowing that your shortstop has your back and wants you to succeed, and watching this offense, especially the way that Juan Soto has performed since the start of August. It's everybody, though. Everyone in that lineup, even Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos, starting to find their strides and put it all together. And they want nothing more than to make their new arms and some of their most important arms, right? Because you're going to need McLean and Tong in the postseason. They don't have to carry the whole weight, but they are going to be really important. And nothing makes you feel better than seeing your team score some runs for you early.
Oh, for sure. There is a chance that McLean could face Jacob deGrom a week from Friday, so we'll see if the Mets can continue to give their young arms the run support that they rarely gave deGrom. We do have some breaking news, though, to share. A source confirms that the Mets are calling up Brandon Sproat to start on Sunday. Andy, I know you've been all over this news. What made them decide to call him up now?
The Mets have just been really aggressive on their young pitchers, as we've been discussing, and they're not slow playing these things. It's like, all right, we're getting toward crunch time. Who can help us? And they're just trying to win a World Series here. So however much they're paying you, however much you have, experience, if you're not getting it done right now, they're very fortunate that they have some people in their organization that are worth taking a look at because they've been getting it done at the minor league level. And Sproat is the latest. That's, and I'm seeing it right now that they've named it. I knew he was starting, and like you said, it looks like it's going to be Sunday. I knew it was either going to be Sunday or Wednesday, just depending how they were gonna shake it out. But look, you might as well give this kid a shot. You don't know if it's going to work. You're not going to hit every time, but I do credit the Mets with saying, all right, I know we chose these other guys to pay and to put in our rotation, but it's time now to just try to win. So, hey, let's see if Brandon Sproat can pitch well in the big leagues. It'd be pretty long odds to say that you're going to hit on 3 out of 3 in the same month in terms of these call-ups, but you might as well try.
Yeah, I mean, no harm in trying. But Dani, how do you think that this will affect the rest of the rotation?
Yeah, I think, listen, he doesn't need to be a Cy Young Award winner. He doesn't need to go out there and go 9 innings, 9 scoreless innings. He doesn't need to do any of that. But what the Mets do need is a little bit of help on the starting side. First of all, having guys like Senga and Kodai Senga underperforming right now is not only hurting the starters, it's hurting the bullpen, and it's hurting the offense that's playing really well, right? Your bullpen is super taxed, and that's not what you want going into October. You need a little bit of length. You need to start to figure out how you're going to assemble your arms and who you trust. Something that's interesting that I saw this week is that from last year to this year, or excuse me, from 2023 to 2024 in the postseason, starting pitchers were pitching 10% less in the postseason. They averaged 4 1/3 innings in the postseason last year. And the best example I can give you guys is the Dodgers, right? That Dodgers series against the Mets in the postseason last year, the only pitcher that went more than 4 1/3 was Jack Flaherty in game 1, and he went those 7 innings. They had 2 bullpen games, and then everybody else went 4 or 4 1/3. And that is the trend. That is probably what's going to continue this year. And so they need Brandon Sproat to come in and just be his very best. I know there are questions right now about how he's going to perform. Maybe the numbers haven't been dazzling down there, but I'll tell you this. I did cover Brandon Sproat in college at Florida. It's a really self-aware kid, an honest kid. Kevin O'Sullivan is the head coach of that program, and there's nobody better than Sully to get you ready for the next level, to prepare you for that. Obviously, Pete Alonso is a great example, a Florida kid. Harrison Bader, a Florida kid. It goes on and on. Brady Singer, right, who's in the big leagues right now. A ton of Florida guys who know how to play baseball. And when you talk to Brandon Sproat, again, he's honest with, in college, did not have all the success that he wanted, struggled in his first few years there. And then he went to a mental skills coach and started working with a mental skills coach to improve that part of his game, which has helped tremendously. He's got the stuff. Like, he absolutely has the stuff. And hopefully the Mets can put up some run support, as you said, Chelsea, the difference that makes for these young guys. But he doesn't need to come up and be a superhero. He just needs to come up and be Brandon Sproat.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Dani, I mean, Kodai Senga has a 6.18 ERA, and Manaea's numbers are even worse than that. So, Andy, what does the Mets calling up Sproat at this point say to you about how they currently feel about where Senga and Manaea are?
Well, clearly Senga is getting a little timeout time from the rotation. Whether he goes down to the minor leagues or not is currently being discussed between Senga's people and the Mets people. So we're going to see. That'll probably resolve itself within the next 24, 36 hours is what I'm told. But yeah, they're trying to figure out what a plan would be to get Senga to the minor leagues, which he has the right to not do in his contract. But so trying to probably lay out exactly what the steps would be, how this would work. This isn't like optioning some kid, obviously. This is an established guy who just needs to go get right somewhere. And the Mets are hoping it's the minor leagues, and they're working through that. In terms of Manaea, He's more likely than not probably to get another starting opportunity, but you could see him maybe in that David Peterson role in the playoffs. This is just me speaking off the top of my head, not reporting, but Peterson was that guy to get lefties out of the pen against like a Philly team that has a lot of lefties last postseason. Maybe if Manaea, if you don't want him in the rotation, he could try that. Although just overall, if he's ineffective, it used to be that he was pitching well until about the fourth inning, as we saw in Detroit, as we're seeing now. And Sean, if you're watching, I'm so sorry that we're reminding everyone of this awful experience that you had in Comerica Park. But yeah, that was not good from the jump, and he's got this bone chip in his elbow, and he's missed most of the season. He had the oblique that took forever, so they're trying to figure out if he can get right physically in time to help at all this year, I think.
Yeah, I have a quick follow-up though as to what you said about Kodai Senga potentially going to the minors. Andy, do you think that Senga would accept that plan to go to the minors? Like, I don't know if that's obviously it's out of his hands,
Yeah.
but like, would he be okay with that? Like, how do you think he would take that on?
Actually, Chelsea, he has the right to say no. So in his contract, it's unique. But they signed him to a major league contract because he came from Japan, right? So he didn't come through the normal player development system as a player with options. So he has the right to refuse any assignment to the minor leagues. And he'd be within his rights to exercise that right that hasn't been negotiated, that the Mets gave him. But whether or not he's going to buy into it is what they're working on right now, like pretty much as we speak. This is something the agencies and the front offices deal with. Not to mention, I'm sure a coaching staff also trying to talk to the player and the personal relationships that they have. But we will find out if he will accept it soon enough. He'll give the answer to that question that you have, Chelsea, soon enough. In the meantime, they're working on it.
Yeah, for sure. Dani, so what do you think the Mets do with Senga and Manaea at this point? Do they just hope that they figure it out? Or is it time for more drastic action? And I guess I'm kind of putting drastic in quotations here when we talk about sending Senga to the minors. But what do you think they do with the two of them?
I think that you oversupport them, first of all. And Carlos Mendoza does a really good job when he talks about his players and putting the onus on the team. You heard him talking about Ryan Helsley. I know we'll talk about Helsley, that it's up to the Mets to help him figure this out. It's not just on the player to sort these things out. So number one is oversupport these guys and trying to figure out what's going on with them. Number two, I think that those two in particular, and I think that they do, but it's about checking your ego, right? So for Kodai Senga, if he's hurting the big league club because his pitching performances are poor, then maybe it is best to go down to the minor leagues, work some things out. Francisco Alvarez did that. I know he didn't have a choice, but he went down there, worked on some things, checking your ego. It's the only way to win big league games. It's the only way to win in October. It's interesting. I saw this podcast with Mookie Betts, and he was talking about last year's World Series championship team. And he said that they spent more time with each other than they did with their wives. And they were okay if their wives were going to be mad at them, because the only way to win in these types of situations when you're spending all these time with these guys is checking your egos and being willing to do whatever is best for the team. And for Sean Manaea, I love that idea, Andy. The role that David Peterson served, he was a hero last year. The Mets had the success they did because David Peterson was willing to do anything. Like, talk about checking your ego at the door. Whatever role you need me in, I'm willing to do. Those are the most important guys on your team. It's the moments and the performances that nobody pays attention to because you just bridged the gap. You just ate up 2 innings because you didn't have anybody left in your bullpen, but maybe you have Sean Manaea. And I have a feeling Sean Manaea would accept any role as long as he could contribute. And watching him in these games not be able to go through that lineup a second and third time and struggling when you get to those 4th and 5th innings, that is hurting the team, right? You're hurting your bullpen when they have to eat so many innings and you're still trying to figure out Can Ryan Helsley do this? What role can he play for us? Is Brooks Raley ready to skyrocket into October after coming back from his injury? Like, there's a lot of question marks here, but I think Clay Holmes is going to be a big factor here, right? What more can Clay Holmes do? How much more does he have in the tank for you? What kind of expectations are you going to put on your young guys? I see a lot of chatter, and I'm sure Andy does too, about Brandon Sproat and Jonah Tong and Nolan McLean are going to carry us into October. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not. It's going to be your veteran guys who know how to pitch in October, who teach those younger guys, and hopefully, and the Mets have done this all year, put them in a great position to succeed. It is not Nolan McLean's job to help you win the World Series solely on his shoulders. That's not his job. He's doing his job. He's going above and beyond right now, and I think he'll continue to do it. But remember, this is a rookie. This is still a prospect. He's gonna have a game. He might get shelled, and you're gonna have to understand that and not be mad because he didn't go 5-0 to start his big league career.
Great points, and I think you'd actually. I know this sort of thing is playing with fire. You're never rooting for a guy on your team to struggle if you're the Mets, but I wouldn't mind seeing McLean and Tong and Sproat go into the postseason having had some struggle at the big league level and coming through it. Because you don't want that first horrible jam that they're in to be in game 2 of the wild card series either. So how they would react to something like that against major league hitters and, if McLean wants to stay on a heater until November 1st and carry the Mets to the World Series, that works too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said for dealing with that pressure and getting that under your belt. Not pressure, but struggle, I should say.
No, yeah, I mean, that's a good perspective too. But let's stick with Ryan Helsley here because you just brought him up, Dani. So he had another rough outing yesterday, giving up a 3-run homer in the 7th. His ERA is now 11.45 since joining the Mets. So Dani, I'll start with you with Helsley. Do you think that he's still tipping pitches, or do you think that there's something deeper that's going on?
Maybe it's a little bit of both. I think that that's a certain possibility there. If you want to dive into the stats for a second. So last season with St. Louis, he was the NL reliever of the year. His fastball was almost unhittable, and guys were slugging like three something against it. His slider was also exceptional, plus his curveball. So his secondary pitches allowed his fastball to maybe not be so perfect because you kept batters guessing. And then this season, those numbers have all unfortunately ballooned a little bit. And so when your slider isn't breaking and your curveball doesn't have break to it, then guys are seeing your fastball better. And they know if you don't elevate your fastball, that they're going to be able to crush it. They're barreling him up more than they ever have in the last 2 seasons. The slug against his fastball is sitting like around 600 or more. And the slug against his curveball and his slider are also up. And so Carlos Mendoza has mentioned, you've got to land your pitches for strikes, right? You have to be able to control the zone, and he's not doing those things. Maybe it's because there's a little bit of tipping, and so batters are picking up on that. But Ryan Helsley said it himself after yesterday's outing. He's throwing 100. Like, let's not undersell that throwing 100 will always be impressive. I don't care how many guys are doing it. It's still impressive, but it looks like or feels like it's 91 miles per hour. And so batters are just sitting on it and they're barreling it up. And it's really frustrating to watch. I don't know Ryan Helsley personally. I've had a couple conversations with him in the clubhouse. I think he's a really great guy. I think he's really good at what he does. I think it's really hard to be traded in the middle of the season to a new team, to New York City, coming from St. Louis. Like that's me. I came from St. Louis to New York City. It's a little jarring. It's not an excuse, but I think Ryan Helsley is better than what you're seeing. I don't think I'd put him in the 8th inning anymore. I don't think I'd put him in a tie ball game anymore because the Mets still have to win this wild card spot. But Carlos Mendoza's got to get creative on how he continues to build the confidence and support him. And I know his teammates are going to support him. But I think it's just a combination of being able to locate your pitches and knowing that you do have to be perfect. This isn't actually a time to miss. You've got to be perfect from here on out.
Yeah, Andy, sorry. I would love to hear just what you've heard as far as the plan for Helsley.
Well, the plan, they're just got to try to get him right. And if you can't, you got to plan to leave him off the playoff roster, which is crazy to think that, your big trade deadline acquisition would be in that conversation. I like the way Mendoza handled him in the getaway game in Detroit, and that this is a result of the Mets having a little bit of a cushion. If the Mets are a half game up on the wild card yesterday, he's probably not pitching with the Mets down 1 run late in the game. But they got to get him right. It's not a must-win game. It's an important game. They all are. But think, all right, let's try him in this slightly lower leverage situation. That didn't work. So he's probably not going to be in again with the Mets only down 1 for a while. So they're going to keep trying to have to back him off and find the right landing spots. The other point that I would make about Helsley and this not working is not a Mets specific point. It's more of an industry thing, but it's relevant to this. It used to be. This is a point about scouting. When I started covering baseball, and I'm not that old, there were like 10, 15 scouts at every game, every major league game, leading up in the weeks leading up to the trade deadline to look at trade targets. And what these scouts are able to do is see if a guy's tipping, see if a guy's not landing his breaking ball right now. Stuff that you can get on video, but when a scout gets to the ballpark, he's asking the writers, he's asking the coaches that he knows, how do you think a guy would handle New York, this and that. They're gathering all this intel. The Mets didn't have a scout look at Helsley once, from what I understand, prior to trading for him. Again, they're by far from the only team that operates this way at this point. But it shows the value in that particular way of doing your diligence. That some teams do it, and those teams tend to be really successful on trades. And that might be something for the Mets to take a look at is actually putting physical scouts on guys that they're looking to trade for in July, which they did not do with Helsley.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting point. I never thought about that. All right, guys, we're going to veer off from the Mets for a second to have a little bit of fun. I feel like I'm on a little bit of a delay from you guys, so bear with me.
You are.
Dani recently had the chance. I know, I'm like, what's going on? I don't know what's happening, but we're going to get through this. So Dani recently had a chance to interview the one and only Elmo, one of my favorite social media posts that I saw over the past week. Dani, so awesome. Such a cute photo. How did this come about, Dani? Like, please tell us how this happened.
Well, first of all, Chelsea, you're perfect. You're not delayed. We must be delayed because you are perfect. So it's us, not you, number one.
Wow,
Number two,
thank you.
Yes, you guys are so kind to bring this up. I want to cry looking at this photo, to be completely honest. So the backstory is that Major League Baseball and Sesame Street teamed up. They recorded Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and they have Sesame Street night across America. I know the Mets have done some things with Sesame Street already. Elmo got to go up to Citi Field and meet all the players. And so it came together like 2 weeks ago. And then a couple days before we taped, my boss from SiriusXM on MLB Network Radio asked me if I was available, and he wouldn't tell me why, and eventually revealed that they were trying to book Elmo. And so Elmo came to SiriusXM from Sesame Street and sat down with me for 20 minutes. And, a little reminder, Elmo's 3.5, and Elmo doesn't know that he's famous. And so basically we prepared a bunch of questions, and when I tell you, like, my stomach was turning knots inside and out because I couldn't believe I was sitting next to Elmo. But like, you got to play it cool because Elmo doesn't know he is a global celebrity. And it aired last week on MLB Network Radio and then MLB Network as well. And I'm like eternally grateful. I think this was the hardest interview I've ever done in my entire life. And I wish I was being sarcastic, but I'm not. I'm being so serious because if anybody knows out there, 3.5-year-olds are sassy, very sassy. And
I have one.
Yes,
I have a 3.5-year-old right now. I know exactly what you mean.
They live up to that name, and he was so wonderful and perfect. And I truly am so grateful for the chance to do it. So thank you for sharing it here.
Nicely done.
No, I mean, the child in me was like living vicariously through you. So cool. Andy, who's the coolest or most interesting person or character that you've ever interviewed?
Well, I certainly can't top that. I've never interviewed a Muppet. I've been very fortunate to interview plenty of interesting sports figures and entertainment figures. It's so hard to narrow down. Let me tell a story that's Dani specific. Dani, did I ever
Ooh.
tell you about when I found the?
Oh,
I know you're a
great.
big Taylor Swift fan, so that's why I'm picking this one.
Yes.
Did I ever tell you the story where I found
Ooh.
Taylor's real guitar teacher and like her origin story? Have I ever told you this? This is the
No.
cool. So I haven't always done sports.
What?
2014 or 15, it was whenever 1989 was huge. Taylor told a story on the Tonight Show where where she said, "Oh, it was this magical thing. This guy came to fix our computer when I was a little kid, and there was a guitar in the corner of our computer room, and he taught me 3 chords, and I wrote my first song, and then I was off from there." And that was a story she told. So I had an editor at the Daily News that had a good news sense, and he goes, "That's got to be bullshit. There's no way that's the real story, and you got to go to Reading, Pennsylvania, the city. You know, she's from this Christmas tree farm around near Reading, Pennsylvania. Go there and find this guy. Find this computer tech guy, and find out what the real story is." So I just had my job was to move into Reading and a residence inn until I found this guy. And so I'm bouncing all around town. Like I'm talking to Taylor's babysitter. I'm talking
Oh my
to
gosh.
the guy that lived next door from the Christmas tree farm. Like, and I'm trying to figure out who is this guy who is allegedly in this story. So this is like a Hollywood movie. Finally figured out his name's Ronnie. He runs a computer repair shop in downtown Reading, Pennsylvania. And I walk in like with sort of butterflies, like I don't know how I'm going to be received. And I walk in, I go, "Hi, I'm looking for Ronnie. I'm from the Daily News." And he stops me. He literally goes, "I've been waiting for this moment for years." And he's like, "I'm ready to talk." And it turned out, and he told me the whole story. And it turned out what happened was, he's like, the Swift family is full of it. I gave Taylor guitar lessons for hours a day, 3 days a week for years. And they lied about me. They cut me out of her story. So I wrote this whole thing and it blew up. And so the guy that taught Taylor to play guitar, it was the one that came to mind for me as my story.
Oh my gosh.
Most
Did the
interesting
Swifties come after you?
They did a little on Twitter and stuff, but it wasn't that bad. But then it snowballed a little. So her people sent this guy Ronnie a cease and desist, like stop talking about Swift.
No.
So then I'm all of a sudden on a Taylor Swift beat, and for the Daily News, so I'm writing these stories because Ronnie's giving me the cease and desist letter, and I'm printing it in the Daily News, and like Taylor's going after this guy. So much for gratitude, you know. It's like all this crazy stuff. So it did get a little intense for a while, and then then it ended, and I went back to the Mets. But there you go.
It's a great story.
Thanks.
Yeah, Andy could
I
still
thought
be
you would like that
covering
one.
this to this day.
Have I really never told you that?
No, you've never shared that one with me.
Oh, now you know.
That's great. That's an excellent story. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very much.
Man, I don't know how we top Elmo and Taylor Swift's guitar teacher from a Christmas tree town in Reading, Pennsylvania. Wow, incredible, guys. Okay, and with that, let's get back to the Mets.
Yes.
Francisco Alvarez hit a grand slam in a rehab start with AAA Syracuse last night. Andy, when could we expect Alvarez to be back in the lineup?
Well, this is amazing. Soon. All he has to do is show he can grip a bat and hit, and so we're seeing it right there. It doesn't really matter that it's happening in AAA because literally the man has 0 working hands right now. You're supposed to have 2, and he has 0. And yet, we're seeing what he's able to do. So you do that, great. Come up to the Mets. I think it'll be real soon.
Okay. And what's the latest on Jesse Winker and Jose Siri's potential return? What have you heard?
Winker's done for the season, and Siri, he's on his way back. He's doing the rehab. It's an interesting situation with him in center fields. I'm interested to see how it shakes out. It'll be if Siri does come back. He's the option. He's got power. He's an amazing defender. He's Harrison Bader. That's why they brought him in. Very similar profile, but he hasn't played hardly all year. So you're going to roll with that guy in the playoffs over a Cedric Mullins or Tyrone Taylor. Or even McNeil a little bit in center. So very interested to see how that shakes out playing time and roster wise. I don't think they know yet, but he's on his way back health wise.
Okay, a couple of things to monitor moving forward. Let's look at the upcoming schedule. So the Mets face the Reds, the Phillies, the Rangers, and Padres before their next off day. They're 5 games ahead of the Reds for the third wildcard spot, 5.5 behind the Phillies in the division, and just 1 game behind the Padres for the second wildcard. All key matchups with heavy playoff implications. Dani, does any series stand out to you as a must-win?
Yeah, that feels like a lot of pressure to put on them. I will say this. The Reds coming up are important because they're starting to fall off a little bit. You kind of want to put the nail in the coffin there. I think that if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. I think splitting that series with the Phillies would be a huge win for them. I'd take 2 out of 4 there. The Texas Rangers are on the verge of trying to get into the American League wild card. They've been one of the best teams as of late. So that's going to be a bigger series than people might realize. The implications for the Mets on that one are small. But again, just playing up to the level of your competition, I think, is really, really important there. The other thing to note in all this is the Giants' schedule. The Giants' schedule the rest of this month is pretty soft. They've got 15 games against teams that are below 500. They only have 6, which is against the Dodgers, all against the Dodgers for the rest of the month to play a team above 500. The Giants right now, 4 games back from the Mets in the division. And so while the Mets need to play good baseball, 500 or better baseball here, I just think it's about all the fundamentals, all the little things watching in these series while you look ahead. But I'm not going to say that one is more important than the other, but I think that moment by moment, pitch by pitch, this is the time to start to lock in. The offense has taken off. I want to see the pitching start to do the same.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing the Mets catch the Phillies or be caught by the Reds or Giants. So I guess what I'm saying is these series lack that immediate drama that they could have had if these races had been tighter. Neither is impossible, don't get me wrong, if they get super hot or super cold. You got to keep winning every day. But last September, I mean, we remember they were playing until after the season was over, that doubleheader day in Atlanta. Yeah. It was white knuckle. And there's no series right now on the calendar that's like that. So just keep putting your best foot forward no matter who you're playing, and they'll end up in the playoffs with a wild card berth. That's how I look at it right now.
Yeah. Dani, which team poses the biggest threat to the Mets for that final spot? The Giants, the Reds, the Diamondbacks, the Cardinals are all in the mix for the third wildcard spot.
It is kind of crazy to look at the standings right now for the wild card, but the Reds to me have been so inconsistent. I cannot foresee them getting it together here down the stretch. I'm telling you right now, the Giants to me, if you look at their schedule, they've got the Cardinals, the Rockies, the Diamondbacks. Like, it's super, super soft, and they're taking care of business right now. All of that being said, do I think the Giants are better than the Mets? Absolutely not. I think that it would be a great tragedy if the Giants were somehow able to get in. Like, great for them, but they're not playing postseason baseball. They haven't been all season long. It's been an absolute mess since they acquired Rafael Devers. It just hasn't gone their way. So, like, to me, the Mets have owned that third wild card. They should be in that third wild card. They might even get the second one. The Padres have had a bit of a tough time. There's a real possibility that they could get that second wild card spot, which would help them out as well for seeding. But no, I do not think that any of those teams are better or will catch the Mets. But the Giants' rest of September is very soft. So I think it could get a little spicier than we're anticipating down the stretch.
This wild card sucks. This extra wild card, because when you watch the playoffs, you're supposed to be watching like great teams facing each other. The fact that these teams that sold at the deadline and aren't playoff caliber, we just are the Giants? The Giants are 2 games over 500, right? It's like, come on, they don't deserve to be in this conversation. And the fact that there's even a remote possibility that we have to watch a playoff game with that team in it just dilutes the whole experience.
Tell them, Andy.
Yeah, well, I miss the days when you had to be a good team to be in the playoffs. Call me an old fogey, but that seemed like. I mean, the Mets are a good team, so if it shakes out the way that it looks like it's going to, you will have a good slate in the National League. But again, it's like that last spot is unnecessary if you ask old Andy, but no one did.
We asked.
Yes, it's true.
No,
I
Andy,
appreciate
I'm with you. I'm glad you put in your 2 cents.
Yeah, thanks.
Quick note on the Giants. Former minor league Met Drew Gilbert has been tearing it up in the big leagues. He was a part of the Tyler Rogers trade. Jonah Tong takes the mound tomorrow as the Mets open their series against the Reds. We will see you all there. But that's going to do it for us here on Mets Off Day Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Andy and Dani, you guys are class acts. Thank you for dealing with my delay issues all show. Andy, it was great to hear your Taylor Swift story. I did not think that was going to come out of your mouth.
You didn't see that coming today
Dani,
in the rundown.
love the Elmo interview.
Yeah.
I did not at all.
Yeah, right.
Always a pleasure doing this with you both.
I don't
Thank
even-
you all
can't
so
even
much
do
for
Andy,
joining us.
come on.
We'll see you on the next off day.
Bye.